Happy Thursday, everybody. Thanks for checking in. Special Traded Black podcast here today on a Thursday, 4 o'clock. Why? Well, all the stuff that's going on here in Florida this week, we forgot almost that there's an earnings season underway. So we got a stacked lineup here today. We're going to have CEO Ziad Ghanem from TerrAscend, along with their chairman, Jason Wald, on in just a moment, along with chairman and CEO of Curaleaf, Boris Jordan. So lots to talk about. We'll talk about earnings. We'll talk about the landscape and especially the news from this week and get their perspective on it all. So lots that we're going to dive in here today, which is why you should watch this podcast. Let's welcome in AV. Happy Thursday. Special time, special day for some special information.
A little bit of better energy today than was yesterday.
I know.
With the sell-off and I guess kind of just absorbing the Amendment 3 fiasco. But it was nice to see some green on the tape. Hopefully it's not a dead cat bounce. We can kind of get some follow through tomorrow. There's some names with TerrAscend obviously being one of them that got punished with no exposure to Florida. So it's going to be interesting to see how these names rebound. Yeah.
In crypto, psychedelics, all moving here today. And don't sleep on those industries. But
no, Cybin, Atai, Compass, they're all up. Crypto got some good news today with another rate cut via Jay Powell. So it shouldn't, don't want to say smooth sailing, but that with the Trump administration wanting to not deregulate, but actually regulate crypto, it's positive for the sector.
For sure. And I saw RFK Jr.'s tweet about pertaining to the FDA and healthcare, and psychedelics was in that, which I'm sure probably had to do with a little bit of a run. But we covered cannabis, so lots to cover as we move forward in this industry. I know there's a lot of people still dwelling on what happened 48 hours ago, but look, like I said off the top, it is earnings season. We got a strong lineup for the remainder of the week, with first starting with multi-state operator TerrAscend as we welcome in their chairman, Jason Wald, and CEO Ziad Ghanem. Good to see you guys. How are things?
Good. How are you? Nice to see you guys.
See you too.
Yeah. We down in Miami? Where are we, gents?
Miami.
How's the weather? How hot?
84 and humid, something like that.
Tough life. Tough life.
Yes.
All right, let's get into some of these numbers. For the latest quarter, you reported $74.2 million in revenue compared to $77.5 in Q2 of this year. Gross margin increased from 48.6 to 8.8% sequentially. EBITDA from continuing operations was $6.6 million compared to $18.6 million from the previous quarter, along with adjusted EBITDA margins from operations was 18% compared to 20.2%. Jason, I'll start with you. You outline in your press release that for the quarter, you maintain leadership in positions like in key markets like New Jersey. We did see a decrease in certain numbers that I just outlined. So how would you best describe, how should investors, I guess, interpret this latest report?
Yeah, I think it was, I think the way we described it was solid. We didn't, it's not like we were bouncing off the walls, excited about it, but we think that we performed well in what's, a pretty competitive environment. Jersey we've gone from, we were two of 13 dispensaries that first kicked off the rec program, and now there's over 200 in the state.
Wow.
So we're really proud of the fact that we've maintained that number one market position all year. In the quarter, we held the same market share that we had in the prior quarter, even though I believe there was probably about like 5 or 6% of total market share that was that a couple of new entrants came in and got. And we're proud of the fact that our stores for the last 3 quarters have not decreased anymore based upon all those additional stores that have come in. I think our stores grew slightly sequentially Q2 to Q3, but our wholesale was down just because while we maintained that share, there was just a little bit less wholesale sales available. I think we were a record number of doors, record number of accounts, but some smaller orders.
200 locations now across the state.
Almost 200, 184 in New Jersey.
184. Sorry.
So, Ziad, how do you stay competitive and stay ahead of the curve, so to speak?
Yeah. So, look, I think Jason described it. I want to emphasize it again. In the early days between Q3 of last year, when you compare to Q3 of this year, this is where we went being 2 of 17, 18 to we had around 100 stores that opened within 20 miles radius from our 2 stores in New Jersey. And with those 102 stores, for us to be flat to slightly up the last 3 quarters, that's what I'm so proud of the team and the hard work they've done. How did we do it? It's the consistent quality, is the consistent innovation, and the consistent launch of new form factors. I think those together,
new strains,
and the new strains, and those together are what caused us between Q2 and Q3 to stay at 14.2% market share, where we have a couple of new players that came in and stole 6 or 7% market share from the top MSOs, number 2, number 3, number 4, and then we maintained it through those efforts.
Anthony, far away.
As it relates to New Jersey and I guess the health of the market, are you getting any, let's say, tourists that are not tourists per se, but traffic that's coming from, let's say, New York, that's still waiting to come online and actually get its act together as a market? Is New Jersey still benefiting from any of that?
I don't know if we get that much. I mean, certainly 2 of our stores are close to New York, but there have been New York is now like $1 billion market, and a lot of it is in New York City, which is close to those stores. So obviously we were competing, whether it's legal dispensaries or illegal dispensaries. There's plenty of weed for sale in New York, right?
Yeah.
On the other side, our store in Phillipsburg, that's across the river from Eastern Pennsylvania. I mean, that is we're still getting a whole lot of business from Pennsylvania. Ziad, do you know what percentage it is in terms of out of state over there?
Yeah, it's a little bit above 50%.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, we'll win obviously if Pennsylvania goes rec. We got a huge cultivation and manufacturing operation there in 6 stores, but in the meantime, we're getting a lot of PA rec business in New Jersey.
Speaking of Pennsylvania, I mean, one thing that we've all been thinking about the last couple of days with Florida not materializing is growth for the industry. As it relates to Pennsylvania, that's the next logical step, I would say, as far as adult use conversion in the overall footprint of the United States. Are you seeing anything or hearing anything coming from Pennsylvania that could potentially materialize to get adult use online there?
Yeah, I was just talking with Michael from Attach, who's observing the races very closely, and he said hello to you guys.
Nice.
But I think Pennsylvania is different than Florida because it's not a ballot initiative. It's obviously through the legislators. Where there's an alignment from different groups that when the session starts back in January, between January and March, there's a likelihood of a vote that will happen on the bill. We've been working collectively as an industry to contribute and shape the bill. And you said, Anthony, you said logic should win. And when you have 3 states around Pennsylvania, between Ohio, Pennsylvania, Maryland, and New Jersey, Maryland, and Ohio going rec, so each side of the state is just driving 5-10 minutes, taking their taxes outside of the state to get their taxes. It just makes sense, and we're optimistic that with the support from Governor Shapiro, we will see that transition in 2025.
And I guess that's the one. There's a lot of differences, obviously, between PA and Florida, but one, the governor is dead set against the program, and we see the efforts and the amount of money that he put into it. And in the other, we've got a governor who, has publicly supported it. Whether he's gotten it done quick enough or put enough effort into it up until this point is another issue. I think he's also been distracted with a lot of national politics that have been going on for the last number of months. But at least we have a governor there who is supportive of the program. And Ziad and I have been talking about going up and start knocking on some doors and meeting with we've been doing a lot. The group is working nice collectively in the state, but there's still no I think there's no substitute for having the CEOs or the chairman going and shaking some of these politicians' hands, because then when they tell you they're going to do something, if they don't do it and they see you the next time, they're a little they don't want to see you. They're a little embarrassed. They don't care saying something to a lobbyist and then not coming through. We want to have them look us in the eyes.
We could be here all day talking about that. Yeah. Who would have thought logic works in this business, right, Ziad?
It shows one thing, that the education should continue for our lawmakers and our governors, and we should convince them that kids are not going to end up with cannabis in their candies. Instead, we should convince them that it's tested, it's safe, It replaces the cartel and the illicit market. It replaces overdoses from opioids. It made patients and customers. It helps them win their life back by replacing the triplicate prescriptions. So we have a lot of work to do. The good thing is the future lawmakers, the college kids are the difference maker, but we should not wait until they are the lawmaker. We should do it much faster.
Yeah, good point.
One thing I kind of wanted to go back to the numbers for a second. I mean, this was your 9th quarter of positive free cash flow from operations, but we did see the EBITDA numbers slide.
Yeah.
With, let's say, New Jersey, you're maintaining that position and that market's stabilized. What's attributing to that throughout your footprint? Because I mean, you're in Maryland, Michigan, Pennsylvania, these keystone markets. Are you seeing price compression? Are there different forces that are driving that? What kind of attributed that to the quarter?
Sure. Let me break down the states. We have 5 of them, and now soon to be 6 with Ohio. We don't talk often about California. It's a small business. It's a steady business. I'll start with Michigan, the next most mature state. In Michigan, we came in when the gross margin was 22%, and we announced a few quarters ago that we'd like to get it to 40%. Year to date in 2024, we are at 40%. The next stage of Michigan is to really build on our business and really increase our presence and increase our scale. And we are having a lot of conversations on how to do that. Just today, we had a few conversations around Michigan, and we can't wait to share as they mature. Now, when we go to our Northeast market, starting with New Jersey, look, New Jersey, we're still seeing strong margin. We are still seeing the number 1 market share, but also not the number 1 market share that is sliding, continuing to be above 14%, similar to how it was. The revenue decline or the EBITDA slip that you saw was a wholesale decline in revenue, and then it corresponded with EBITDA. That is in New Jersey. And the other part was the Michigan loss in revenue to get to 40% because we stayed disciplined on the discounting, and we just declined some non-profitable revenue. So New Jersey wholesale, retail in the past from last Q3 to this Q3, and then just around $2 million in Q2 to Q3. That's what you saw in the EBITDA slip. Maryland, we doubled our gross margin. Our wholesale improved, and we're on a $20 million run rate wholesale in Maryland. And then Pennsylvania, while many of our peers have seen a lot of competition, we've seen our gross margin go up in Pennsylvania for the quarter, Q3 versus Q2, driven by the same factors that I shared about New Jersey that kept us at the same market share, the quality, the strains, the launches. So overall, yes, we are seeing pricing pressure. We're defending against it well with the new launches, the expansion, and what I described from the quality and the strains.
Right. And Ohio should be able to help. You know, we've talked in the past about either finding more stores in Michigan to, absorb that SG&A, across more retail locations. But, with Ohio, we're going to run that out of Michigan as well. So we'll get the benefit. It'll, in our view, it'll make both states more profitable together than they would be individually.
Yeah. And I know you announced, or go ahead, Chad.
I was just going to say, you guys Drew Carey fans, because you're about to enter into the state of Ohio. So you signed a definitive agreement. So what's next? What can people anticipate? Because I think a lot of people in this space realize it's not a matter of if or when TerrAscend would enter into a new market like Ohio, but impressive numbers, to say the least, within the first 60 to 90 days that this market has generated. So what's next?
Yeah, we've been and we've been pretty public about our intentions to enter Ohio over the last couple of quarters. What happened was, Ziad and I did some road trips in the spring and the summer, a little bit like I made some reference to him to planes, trains, and automobiles earlier. Saying that
that's exactly what that state is.
And I'm Steve Martin, but he didn't understand. He didn't know the references. He's never seen the movie. But anyway,
seriously,
and we are. We're really glad that we really took the time to get to know the market. We met with probably a dozen or so different operators. We couldn't really come to terms on a deal. And to be honest, even though the market has, it's obviously gone up a lot from medical to rec, it's most of the forecasts that we were looking at from these operators, they haven't come close to what they thought that they were going to do. And especially on the wholesale side in Ohio is very well supplied. Usually you enter there's a new rec market and there's not enough product, even Jersey, Maryland, places like that. Ohio has been very well supplied, and it made us change our tack between that and the lower overall numbers versus expectations. It made us change our strategy, and we decided to go after individual dispensaries to start. We can drop in cultivation and manufacturing later, especially when we know we have, say, 7 or 8 stores or 5 or 6 stores. We can drop that in later, but the multiple expectations on single dispensaries versus these level 1 operators is materially lower. And that's what you saw with that acquisition we made yesterday. It's somewhere around, like 1.1 times sales and, less than 4 times EBITDA that we're buying it at. And we can, even though we're not going to be vertical there, we can still benefit from the fact that a lot of the partners and the producers that we'll be buying from in Ohio, we're wholesale partners with them in other states. So there's still ways to almost make it quasi-vertical by driving some extra business for ourselves in other states as we're buying product in Ohio store.
So with Ohio not materializing as fast as we thought, is that a product of the full adult use rules and regs not coming online in the time frame that we expected? Is it not materializing as quickly because it's getting cannibalized by, let's say, Michigan? Or what are you guys seeing as far as the forces that are driving? I don't want to call it stagnation, but the lack of acceleration, I guess, in the market.
And then, by the way, there are stores. I think it's location. If you're on the border with Michigan, everybody's going to Michigan to still buy stuff. I sort of look at it as Ohio's got 12, 13 million people, and that's what everybody was doing the math off of. But maybe it's really more like 8 or 9 million people because those other people are going up to Michigan to buy at much lower prices. We're really so that's part of it. And then the other part is, like you said, the adult rules, the adult use rules haven't come out. I mean, all the stores, they weren't even allowed to call themselves rec or adult use. They're called non-medical dispensaries, and you can't do any marketing. There's no high dose concentrates. There's no pre-rolls. So those should help. But I don't know. In Jersey, we didn't have edibles, I think, right in the beginning either, and it wasn't like it was such a hindrance. And it was a pretty good market, right from the get-go. We think that should provide a little bit of the new rules being implemented and the marketing and all that. It should help in the coming months. But in the meantime, it made it so that we could enter a market without any wholesale and feel like we'll do really well going out and buying and be able to drive sufficient margins that way. And also all these tier 1s that we were looking at buying, they had 2 or 3 or 4 dispensaries open. Like they weren't all that good. It was all a package deal. Like now we can go in and pick. I remember the CEO of Teva Pharmaceuticals used to call their acquisition strategy a string of pearls acquisition strategy. Just buy all the best ones. We can get up to 8. And again, they're less money than buying a whole package.
Well, location is going to be big in that state. Go ahead. What are you going to say, Ziad?
Also, the dynamic in the market is evolving. We could be buying 1, 2, or 3, and then we could go back and still make the same deal with the right price with some of the level 1 operators and piece them together in a way that makes sense. So we're open to and flexible to all scenarios.
But just to give you, and not to, be too hard on the market in Ohio, but retail is up. I would say on average is probably up. There's stores that are up 3x. There's stores that are up 50%. It's probably on average, it's like a double, I would guess. But wholesale increases from the wholesale operators we've spoken to, I mean, it's like sub 20%. So that means there's a ton of inventory out there because eventually it's got to catch up. But in the meantime, we're happy to be where we are. Once we know we have a good footprint where we know we're going to need it for ourselves, even if we can't sell it all wholesale, then we'll go back and hopefully be able to strike some deals with some of these other operators.
Are there, without getting too forward looking, are there any other markets that you're looking or evaluating currently that would be strategic to the footprint?
Yeah, we did Florida. We've been looking at. I mean, our view was we weren't going to get into a deal before the vote because either they were going to try to break the deal if there was no definitive, or we were, or it was just too big of a risk for us. It was either we were going to do a really good deal or a really bad deal, and we weren't going to have much control over it. So we decided to, we've been meeting with many companies in Florida. There's a bunch of good ones, and we're not happy with what happened in Florida. We think that the whole industry could have used it, but now we're going to pay a whole lot less for something. I mean, it's going to be a smaller business in the near term, but it'll still have rec ahead of it at some point, it'll be it won't be as big of a price tag.
Yeah.
So that's one of them, and then we're looking at this is in new markets, but we have some LOIs going back and forth in New Jersey on getting additional dispensaries.
Okay.
Any other ones? See?
No, you covered it. Is deeper in New Jersey and Michigan.
Yeah.
New states in the Midwest. Ohio is one of them, and then Florida. And then on transformative deals that we mentioned in the past, and we continue to discuss and progress. And they're complex. The pace of the conversation or of the execution is not going as fast as we would like, but those conversations are still happening.
Yeah. Saying that,
Go ahead, Chad.
I wanted to finish things off, kind of like an overarching view. Look, obviously the news in Florida this week, we have a new administration that's taking place in Washington. I think what we're seeing more and more this earnings season is things are stable or flat across the board right now. So look, we want rescheduling. That's going to take place. There's a lot of questions that pertain to whether or not once the Trump administration now enters in on January 20th, what happens next? How important is it for companies like yourselves to be in front of this administration and actually talking and educating more about this industry? Because from my experience, the last few months, there is a huge lack of awareness as to what's going on in this space right now. And we all know we cover the business side, and the messaging they're going to want to hear is what is the job creation, the tax revenue, and the overall economic engine pertaining to this space. So how important is that for you moving forward? And
the harm reduction.
Right.
Versus alcohol and opioids and things like that. I know that's something that really resonated with President-elect Trump. But
you've been passionate. You've been leading the charge on educating President-elect Trump and his circle. And being on the trend or talking to the transition team. And
so we've been talking to some of his surrogates and some of the people that are on his transition team over the last several months. I'd like to think that part of it was what made its way into that tweet. That he put out must have been in the beginning of September. I mean, the stuff he wrote in that tweet, I mean, we couldn't have asked for more. I mean, he touched on everything: safe banking, Amendment 3, Schedule 3, all that stuff. I believe that he really believes in it. And
listing.
Did he say listing? I don't think he said listing. He said safe banking. But he's a businessman, so I think he would. I think one of the points we made to them is like, the U.S. is outsourcing its listing of U.S. operators, which doesn't make any sense. So I think, when it comes to a Republican like Trump, who when they say positive things about cannabis, there's no reason for them to virtue signal about being pro-cannabis. It's not a typical Republican, position. Clearly, our wonderful governor in Florida feels differently about that. So I believe that he really believes it. And I believe that the other people that I'm talking to that are on his transition team, or maybe in his administration in a couple of months, like I know that they believe in this stuff, and they've done.
There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them there. The voices are in the room. The voices just need to get to the right person and materialize.
Jason, from what you've learned, is there any indication that we have turned the corner here? Like, there's a lot of people saying what we wanted to hear, but nothing got done for 4 years. But we did have a guest on yesterday, and it says, if you have a clean sweep, you have one party that controls everything. There's no contesting. You can get a decision made quicker. However, there's still the great unknown. Who's the attorney general? Is Trump really serious about this? So from what you saw and learned with what you did over the last couple of months, is there any indication that you can back up that you think Donald Trump could be serious about this?
I think he's serious. I think that, for the reasons I just stated, I think his many of these people that are going to be part of this team are serious. And that the point that you just made, like we were talking to a few of the members of the people, the surrogates and transition members yesterday, and somebody was bringing up safe banking and still talking about like how many votes could we have and who could we flip. And the question I brought up is like Trump needs to be the one that goes and tells Congress that we need this to happen. Then the Republicans will all fall in line. Like the old way was counting all the votes and everything, and Biden was supposedly supportive, but if Trump
top down versus
top down versus bottom up, and I think
Trump down. That's the way. That's the way to run the government. Trump down.
And I think I think at least the feedback that I've gotten is there's some moral clarity there about him truly believing that this is something that should get done. He definitely believes in it as a harm reduction tool versus alcohol, and he's a businessman, and he knows there's 500,000 workers across the U.S. So and
someone mentioned something pretty interesting this morning, that the 500,000 jobs that are inherent to the cannabis industry do not show up in the jobs report at all.
Is that
because
true?
Because of the nature of the industry. It was on Twitter. I gotta look into it. But if that's not true, by getting cannabis into Schedule 3 and allowing Trump to incrementally boost the jobs numbers, that to me is something that he would want from an optics perspective.
That would be awesome. Absolutely. And by the way, he also believes in criminal justice reform, and many of the people that we're talking to believe really strongly in that. Weldon Angelo. So I don't know if you guys have spoken with him in the past, but I'm sure you know of him. I mean, Trump pardoned him. Obama could have pardoned him and didn't, and Trump did. So I think that he really feels strongly about that and has some conviction on that as well. So I believe in his sincerity on this whole thing. We've already, we've lived through 4 years. It was pretty much almost exactly 4 years ago that all these stocks peaked when, maybe a couple months later in February of 21, when right after the Senate flipped and Biden won. But we've seen that not much has happened. I mean, I got to give them credit. They started rescheduling the rescheduling process. It seems like they might have lost a little interest around the summer of this year when they had some other stuff going on. But I feel confident that Trump will follow through on the rescheduling. He talked about it in that tweet. And I just believe that he can get some other stuff done. And maybe we don't, maybe some of the stuff that even needed to go through safe banking could be done by executive order. Those are some of the things we've been thinking about as well. And by the way, versus a few years ago, the David Boies case, which, 80% of people poo-pooed and told us it didn't have a chance or anything like that. Like, that's the only thing that's kind of ahead of schedule and ahead of plan. Where we got exactly what we wanted in the district court a few months ago over the summer. We just got scheduled for that, arguments on appeal on December 5th, and they don't, that was a pleasant surprise. It was sooner than expected, or just the fact that they were doing it. And we think that we could be at the Supreme Court, in the middle of next year. And, some of the people, a few of the people I'm talking about are, people that are on, I don't know if they're on the short list for AG, but they're on the list for AG. And I know that they're believers. I mean, who knows? We get in there, we get the right person as AG, and let's see what happens with that Boies case as well.
Well, hopeful, that's for sure. We got to run, gents, but listen, great catching up with you, and let's keep in touch, and hopefully we run into you at a few events before the end of the year. And keep us updated, obviously, on the Boies lawsuit with the oral arguments actually coming up around the corner. But I hope you're right, Jason. I hope there is some actual substance behind all this, and we get some actual movement. I believe there is. I want to believe that there is. But moment of truth time for this space as we head into 2025. But gents, let's keep in touch, okay?
Thanks. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye, guys. Talk soon.
All right. Thought that was interesting just to learn. But listen.
Yeah.
Let's keep the big names rolling along. Perhaps the biggest name in the space. Let's welcome in Chairman and CEO of Curaleaf, Mr. Boris Jordan, on a Thursday. Good to see you. How are things?
Good to be here, gentlemen. I think
yes.
it's first podcast I've done in like 3 months. So,
well, we're honored.
Glad to have you. Thank you for your time.
I'm happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Do you think podcasts is what brought it across the line for Trump to win presidency? Because it sure as hell helped, didn't it?
It did. Listen, I was following that thing like everybody else very, very closely. And I think that talk about execution, talk about surprising the the country. That's what Trump did.
Yeah.
I have to say though, I'm gonna beat on my chest. I called this. I called a landslide to all. Everybody thought I was out of my mind. 3 months ago, I said landslide in Trump's favor. I just felt the same way when the first time he went. I was watching him. I remember I was in a London hotel in 2016 watching Trump. It was actually 2015, watching Trump in Worcester, Mass, with a 28,000 person audience. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking, I'm going, hold on. Worcester, Mass is like the center of the liberal left. I'm like, what the hell is Trump doing with 28,000 people? Then I kind of forgot about it because I wasn't taking him seriously. And like 3 weeks later, I read an article where there was like 20,000 people in Massachusetts that switched parties to Republicans. And I was like, oh shit, maybe we should take this guy seriously. And look what happened.
Yeah.
He carried Georgia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, which was a surprise.
Yeah.
It looks like Arizona and Nevada are his too. I mean, it's literally a blue wall sweep and a battleground sweep. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's shocking. I mean, this is the biggest list. I remember 1984. That was my first election I voted in. Ronald Reagan's against Mondale. I mean, that was obviously a bigger sweep. They only he had every state except Minnesota. But this is the biggest sweep since Ronald Reagan's 1984 flip. This is the biggest sweep since 1984 flip.
She could not connect with the medium class people, and obviously they didn't connect with her, and those are the results. But I really do think this wasn't a red versus blue type election. It was a populist versus establishment type election, and the people have spoken. And I think we're on to big change. I really, really do. I think we're on to big change.
I really hope so, because I have to say I've been very disturbed with where the U.S. has been heading. It's been really depressing. I spent a lot of time abroad and other places, and I feel like the U.S. was losing its position. I think if we didn't get this change, I think this place could have headed in a bad direction. And by the way, I have voted Democrat. I usually vote the person rather than the party. Even though I belong to the Republican Party, I always vote the person. And like second term of Bill Clinton, I'll be open. I voted for Bill Clinton. I thought he was a great president. He ran a balanced budget. He had surpluses. He was good for business. I liked him. I think Trump is good for business. Yeah. And I like to vote my pocket like every American does. And that's what I think took it over the edge. People voted their pocket.
Yeah. Let's talk about numbers. Your latest numbers. You reported $330.5 billion for Q3 compared to $33.17 billion from a year ago, which is a decrease of 1%. Your adjusted EBITDA or adjusted gross margin came in at 49%. You maintained adjusted EBITDA of $75 million, and you also reported a net loss of $44 million and free cash flow of $414.5 million. I said this earlier with Jason and Ziad on from TerrAscend that we're seeing relatively flat numbers for this particular quarter. But one of the things I think that you guys emphasized on in the past is about margin improvements, which needed to be a focal point. So that happened in this quarter. What's changed?
Listen, I've been at the job for 90 days. I joined August 18th. There's a big difference between being a CEO and a chairman. I can tell you that right now. CEO, you run the business every day. I actually got an apartment here I'm in the office every day. I was always on the end of a phone. I was never leading. So I've changed a lot of management. I've set up 10 working groups. We're dissecting the business up and down. And we're very focused on, in the US in particular, on margin improvement and efficiencies, and in Europe on growth. That's the differentiation that we have between two. And we're focused on hemp on growth. So that's really the difference. I really, really want to focus the U.S. on cash flow generation and profitability, because the U.S. in a lot of markets has gone flat and on the growth side. And so instead of chasing discounting and doing all that, I just want to be better and do it cheaper and more efficiently and grow our margin in the U.S. and focus on that right now while we're dealing with this whole hemp, this whole bifurcation in the cannabis market. I think the number that I think everybody needs to focus on is this. It took 10 years for the regulated cannabis industry to go from 0 to 30 billion. It took 2 years for hemp to go from 0 to 20 billion. And if people think that the U.S. cannabis industry is peaking, that's wrong. Just the growth has gone into hemp because it's readily accessible. It's cheaper to buy those products. You don't have to, be part of a database or anything like that. and it has a form factor that Americans love called beverage.
Yes.
Americans love beverages, and beverage is the number one form factor for consumables and digestives. So that's what people want, and literally that's what's happened. A lot of people have moved to that. They're now selling pre-rolls as hemp products. So I just want to say that the cannabis industry could not be healthier. We have a regulatory problem, which we have to fix.
Yes.
We have a regulatory problem that needs to get fixed. And I, by the way, think, I was listening to a little bit of conversation with Jason and Ziad. I think the one thing people are missing, and I think this is going to be possibly the biggest catalyst for cannabis next year.
Okay.
Not rescheduling. It's not safer banking. It's not the Boise lawsuit, although all those things are good. It's going to be the Farm Bill.
Farm Bill. Yeah.
So in the Farm Bill,
what happens there?
It can go two ways. Three ways. It can go where, and by the way, all of them are positive. It can go where they shut it down completely and say no more intoxicating hemp across the country. That's a boom for the regulated business, right? It can go to where they say we're going to leave it the way it is. Hemp is one product, cannabis is another product. I don't think that's the way it's going to go, but they leave it bifurcated.
No.
From our perspective at CURLF, that's positive too, because for the next 5 years, we're going to build the shit out of our hemp business, and we're going to invest in that, and we're going to go national. And frankly, that's going to be our priority. And we've got the infrastructure now to do it because we've been prepping for this. And by the way, some of my biggest competitors that everybody loves are following our footsteps. They're out there hiring right now for hemp. We know that. And I personally think some of the moves, I don't mention the name, but some of the moves that were done the last couple of days, some of these acquisitions that looked really strange, I think are driven around hemp. That's my view.
That makes sense.
Light goes off.
That makes a lot of sense.
I think it's driven around hemp. The other way, which I want, this is what I want. This is the back door to legalization.
That's interesting.
The biggest issue in hemp is the intoxicant, the D9. D9 in cannabis and D9 in hemp is exactly the same cannabinoid. There is no difference. So what I'm pushing for, and I'm in DC next week, what I'm pushing for is for the Farm Bill to regulate D9 rather than hemp versus cannabis, than marijuana. If we can get that, and I think that we can get the farmers around that, then, because it's more business for them, then we've got a backdoor to legalizing cannabis, because they're going to legalize D9, and that means they've legalized THC, which means 280E goes away, which means we can do banking, which we can go public. We can do anything we want in NASDAQ. NASDAQ has said it. They'll allow hemp businesses. So we can do anything we want after that. It's a backdoor that nobody has been focused on, but it's the fastest route to legalization in the U.S.
Never looked at it that way.
I don't know how much chance we have of getting that, but it's one of the factors, and that's the one I'm pushing.
Yeah.
But if lawmakers, and this is obviously getting a little speculative, but if they were to look into empirical data and look at the actual ramifications, let's say, of D9 in the Farm Bill, has it caused harm to society, or is it a public threat? If they deem no, then it seems common sense, which obviously we're talking about cannabis, which there's not a lot of common sense and logic around here. It seems like that would be the proper outcome if the D9 that we're selling to consumers right now is not a public safety issue, and it makes sense.
But the irony behind all this is all three of those, if we get, obviously some are better than others, but for Curaleaf specific, I'll take any one of those three.
Yeah,
it's good for us.
Yeah,
for Curaleaf. I mean, I know it wasn't a surprise, but it was a move that was met with excitement. Was when you decided to launch the Select hemp lines in the beverage and the gummy form factors. How are those doing? Do you plan to broaden out that category into, let's say, any other brands?
Absolutely. So we ran a pilot in the second quarter.
Okay.
The pilot came back interesting. We got very favorable feedback on our gummies. Mm-hmm. We got very favorable feedback on 2 of our flavors in the seltzers and 2 not so great. We've gone back after the pilot. We've reformulated those 2. We've added another 2. So we're now going out with, the commercial program gets launched in December. So this was a pilot, the one we launched. The commercial program gets launched because once you get it into the business of dealing with large distributors and large brick and mortar, you got to have your fucking supply chain. Otherwise, So I didn't want to launch commercially until I was fully ready. So we're launching in December. We're going to launch with 6. It's either 6 or 8. I got to remember seltzer flavors, and they're now really good. So we ran all the sensory panels. We did everything. And we're launching 2 energy drinks in the big cans. Okay. We're also going to, there's more coming down the pipelines. We got mocktails and other stuff. But right now, commercially, we're launching with, it's either 6 or 8 flavors. I can't remember. And two energy drinks. We're also launching with our full line of gummies, which have gone really well. We had no criticism there. That all went well. And we have fast acting, slow release, and a mixed remix, what we call it. It's got CBN, CBG, all that kind of stuff. So 3 types. And then we're going, and the last thing we're going to launch is we're going to go with a cannabis pre-roll, but not now. That's coming next year. It's going to be super interesting. So a hemp pre-roll.
The THCA flower.
THCA flower. So we got a hemp pre-roll. We're going to have gummies, and we're going to have the seltzers and the energy drinks. So
when I look at this, like, we're seeing a lot of markets, they're being oversaturated with competition right now. But short-term growth, it looks to me and sounds to me, regardless of the 3 outcomes that you just outlined, there's a huge opportunity in this space pertaining to the hemp industry, correct?
There is. Listen, there is risk that they shut it down, which is why I'm going at the moment very cautiously, because I don't want to overspend. So we are going, I think we'll have a farm bill by May.
Okay.
Latest June. So we are launching, but we are doing it in such a way that we don't burn ourselves on costs too much. So for instance, we have all the equipment ordered for bottling lines, canning lines. We actually own one canning line that we bought in the secondary market, but we're not installing any of that because that's very heavy CapEx until the farm bill gets approved. Okay. Once the farm bill gets approved, the Kentucky facility is up and going. Our gummy line's fully operational. So we're good with that because we already had the gummy line. But we're waiting for the pre-roll machines, the bottling, the canning machines until we actually get a farm bill. Because if we get a farm bill, that's good for 5 years, and we're going to go hard on it. But if they shut it down in the farm bill, that's okay too, because then I get the benefit in my regulated business. Because all of that, maybe not 100% of that $20 billion, but at least 50% of $20 billion is going to go to the stores, right? Because these are people that are used to using these products, and they're going to want to go to the regulated market. So the growth will come back in the regular cannabis regulated business, or if they allow it, that it's going to be in the hemp business. So either decision for me is okay, but I'd rather get the third one because that just applies the whole thing.
Yeah,
it's gloves off for everybody.
But Speaking of, that's the lowest percentage one in my opinion out of the 3, but it's one that we're going to try for.
In the data, are you seeing any consumers, let's say, start in the hemp channel and then find their way into the cannabis channel in markets that you're operating in?
It's too early for me to tell. My data is literally a pilot program.
Yeah.
So I need some time. And my general position is we don't talk numbers until a business crosses over 100 million. Like our European business this year crossed 100 million. Now we're giving all the details on it, the numbers, the whole thing. It's too small. It doesn't move the needle like Curaleaf unless it's over $100 million. So
Speaking of, I know that international business was up 82% year over year and 17% quarter over quarter. That's one of your main differentiators with the Curaleaf brand is obviously having that European and international exposure with the Northern Green asset in Canada. What's driving that growth, and what insights can you give us that are coming out of the German market?
Well, listen, all 3 markets, England, Germany, and Poland are growing. So I know nobody probably knows this. Now we can talk about it, but because we never talked about it, our UK business is actually the biggest one.
Really?
So UK is number 1 market. Number 2 market is Germany. Number 3 market is Poland. Now, that's in 2024. 2025, Germany will take over as the largest market for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
England will be 2, Poland will be number 3. But if you look at 26, unless there's a change in the UK market, Poland will become number 2 because the growth rates in Poland are so big.
Why is that?
What people don't realize, Poland literally is the healthiest economy in the EU. It is the most unlevered economy. It's got a very good demographic, very young. It's got a very entrepreneurial environment. It's got a very large economy. It may even be the second economy in Europe. I forget it's in the top 5 economies in Europe for sure, if not one of the top 3.
Did not know that.
It's a very, very strong economy. It's a very large population and very educated population. So it's really good. So Germany right now definitely is the growth driver. Listen, in April 1st, we had 150,000 patients in Germany. We're now at 600,000.
Wow.
6 months later. And you got to understand, Germany is 4.5 times bigger than Florida.
Yeah.
Florida is a $2.7 billion medical market.
Yeah.
So I'm not worried about growth subsiding anytime soon.
We got to get to Germany, do some content over there.
Germany is the it place in cannabis right now worldwide. There's no question. That's where it's all happening right now, is in Germany. So I would recommend for you guys to go. We can help you set it up. We know everybody there. It's very fascinating market right now. It's really exploding in growth. A lot of new innovations, new ideas, new stuff. So very, very exciting. So, listen, we are forecasting. And what I like about it is it's moderated growth. It's not this craziness where you get these giant spikes and then it all falls off. It's very steady. It's like 17 to 20% consecutive monthly growth. It's very well regulated. It's very well run. I mean, generally the Germans are very good at running things, right?
Yeah.
Just a tad.
Some of the things we don't like the way they ran in their history, but generally they're very good on the industrial side and running things. So very organized program. It's very well regulated, and it's got very, very healthy growth. So I'll take that kind of growth any day of the week. Poland is accelerating. The UK has some issues, mainly around the fact that the new government that's just come in, doesn't know anything about the program, and they're trying to educate themselves on it. And we're working with them. But they definitely impeded the market and its growth a little bit in their first 3 months. Like, they just came in and they were like, holy shit, there's a cannabis program here, right? I mean, the labor hasn't been in power in so long, they don't know what's going on in the country. So they came in and they're like, oh my God, there's this cannabis program. Maybe we should slow it down. Maybe we should do this. But we're educating them now. We're seeing that they're getting more comfortable. So I'm hoping that things will reaccelerate in the UK.
Yeah.
Because it's literally 50 or 60,000 patients. It's a small market for 60 million people. 60 million people. So I think there's a lot of upside in Europe. And we're also selling now into Australia and New Zealand. So you got to understand, this is I hate to say it, this is a much bigger growth opportunity right now.
Yeah. Boris, I got to ask, do you have the same personal trainer as Donald Trump? Because I haven't seen so much energy in you. Like, this is incredible. Like, the energy that you have in the gas tank right now.
Guys, I stepped in as a CEO and I am so focused on making this thing hum. I'm just super pumped.
Yeah, you said on the earnings call, we've been classified recently as one of the best, and you want to get back to being the roots of being the leader. That's the goal?
I want to be not only in revenue, I want to be the leader in market cap. I want to be the leader in performance. That's my focus. My reputation over 35 years, every business I've run, I've been number one in.
Yeah.
I want to be number one in cannabis. We were there. We lost our way, I'll be honest, for about 4 years. A lot of management changes, COVID, consolidation, some bad decision making. We're back on track. Even in the 90 days that I've been in the seat as CEO, we have made so many changes to the business. We rationalized our product portfolio. We cut out all the products that weren't making money. No more experimenting. We focused on quality. We don't let a single product out of our facility that it's not number one. If you don't have great products, lower your marketing costs.
Yeah.
If you got good products, you don't have to market them. People come to buy them.
Good
and that's
point.
what I'm trying to instill at Curaleaf right now. Great products, great quality, great packaging. It'll sell itself. It'll lower our marketing spend, right? So I'm all about efficiency right now. I hired a very good chief operating officer, sort of that came for what I think is the best run company in the industry right now. He's been on board for 6 months. He's really helping me. We're really improving all the metrics in our grow facilities. So I think Curaleaf probably bottom now. I think we're heading in the right direction.
Well, we talk. Go ahead, Anthony.
I was going to say the main reason I think a lot of people are listening right now is to talk about Florida. Obviously, we had Amendment 3 surprise us, to put it lightly, on Tuesday. You're obviously the clear-cut number 2 in the state of Florida. Curaleaf's a household name when it comes to the Florida cannabis industry. What's your outlook for the state on a go-forward basis? Obviously, it's still a very strong medical market, but you, Trulieve, Verano, your peers have invested in expanding cultivation in the state, invested in expanding your doors. What's the strategy for that market on a go-forward basis?
So, Anthony, 2 things. First, let's admit what went wrong. What went wrong was the Democrats didn't come out to vote, particularly in Miami-Dade.
That's 100% correct.
That's where we lost. And frankly, that's an oversight. That's an oversight for all of us. All of us that were involved in the process. Obviously, Kim led, but we were all there. And that was an oversight by us not noticing that it's not a battleground state anymore, right?
Yeah.
We used to think that Florida was a battleground state until the last election. Really, DeSantis made it, and good for him. Great governor. He made it a non-battleground state. And so what's going on now is that the Democrats didn't come out. I can't tell you how many of my friends in New York are Trump supporters, and they would call me and I'm like, "You guys voting?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Why?"
Correct.
Because it's not going to make a difference. It's the same thing in Florida. The Republican Party is so strong, and it's 1.2 million more people in the Republican Party than the Democratic Party. There was no chance that the Democratic candidate was going to win. No chance.
Yeah.
So they just didn't show up. Who wants to wait on lines and not show up? The other problem, and frankly, Kim was right on this, that I thought that people are going to come out and for the abortion and vote cannabis.
Correct.
The crossover is not there. And by the way,
Correct.
she was right on that. She called that from the beginning. She said to Boris, it's not going to go that way. It's just
we
it's
bet
a
heavily on that
electorate, and they're not going to vote the same way. So that was also, I think, on my personal front. I got comfortable because I thought that was going to happen, but it didn't happen. It's okay. Yeah. Let's get beyond it. We don't have it. Where are we going? So I hate to say this, but it's all about Kim. And I'll tell you why. So the 3 leaders, Verano, Curaleaf, and Trulieve, we all have now very up-to-date, very modern cultivation manufacturing capacity. Like we got ready for the big time. The only difference in Curaleaf, and I can't speak for Verano or for Trulieve, but I can speak for us. The difference ours is I had a strategy of staging. So my staging was I made my first investment for adult use when we got the signatures. I made my second investment when we got the Supreme Court, and we were going to make the last investment after we got the vote. So we are in a okay position from the extent that what I did was I built a very large indoor grow. I used to, our main grow in Florida was a very large a very large greenhouse that we upgraded dramatically. It grew good flower, but I'll give you an example. A greenhouse grows flower at 60 to 65 grams a square foot.
Okay.
Yeah. Our indoor facilities grow at 80 to 85 grams a square foot.
Okay.
So they're much more efficient, and our margins are much better on those products than they are coming out of the greenhouse. So what I've done now is I've built the indoor capacity. I'm going to veg in the greenhouse, and I'm only going to grow finished flower in the indoor. So I'm going to get really good efficiencies out of that. Now, I will get hit a little bit on depreciation amortization because it's a brand new facility. It cost us, $70, $80 million, the whole thing. But what I'm going to do now is, I'm not double stacking. See, my second investment was I built those facilities for double stacking. but I'm not going to build the second layer. So
Okay.
I'm saving money on that, but I can upgrade to that if I have to, but I'm not spending on that. The other thing was I divided up my retail expansion into 2 phases. 15 stores to take me from 66 to 81 were as good for medical as recreational. They were in towns where we don't have a presence. That's 15 stores. The other 20 stores we were going to build was only in for adult use, like big mega, but we're not going to do those now.
I'm assuming one of those was going to go in Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah.
Which I've been wanting to have a Curaleaf in Fort Lauderdale for a while now.
Well, we have one right near Fort Lauderdale, as you know.
It's in Hallandale.
Yeah. And we just opened a big store on Bird Road in northern Miami. And So we have, listen, so I'm just not going to go there and build these big rec stores now. We're going to stay in these, and those 15 are express stores, right? It's mostly vault. So the cost isn't very high. So we're gonna end up by May of next year with another 15 stores at about 80, 81, and the very efficient grow operations. And we needed those stores to pump out that product. The reason I said to you, Kim has 750,000 indoor. She's got like another million of other stuff.
Yeah.
So if Kim is a very healthy margin at call it 70-something% of gross margin.
Yep.
Really good Florida business. And good for her. She's been a great CEO on that business. Now she has a decision in front of her. If she maintains the status quo, she has an absorption problem because she's not going to be using her full grow. So she's going to have an absorption problem, but she's going to go for margin on her business, right?
Yeah.
If she goes the other way and she brings down the margin and starts to squeeze the market, she's going to gain share. However, there's one problem with that, in my opinion. If I was her advisor, her share
go above 50%.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's going to be an antitrust issue.
Correct.
And we won't challenge that in court because I want to support cannabis and I believe in winning on the quality of product, not on lawsuits. But somebody could do that, and that's a problem. And given the fact that that's what all DeSantis talked about for the last 2 months,
correct,
was monopolistic, which by the way is a bullshit position. But for the monopolistic stuff, he could take that up just from a revenge thing, right? So that's where we are on that. And I think that I hope and I think that she'll go the margin route, and that will be healthy for the market. Yeah. I still think the smaller players will be pressured. And
I was going to say, do you see consolidation happening in the Florida market? Because the way that the market dynamics are going to look on a go-forward basis, I can't see that middle of the pack thriving that are kind of just
Anthony,
like existing.
I unfortunately have to finish, so let me just finish with this on this. I think the consolidation is going to happen at a higher level. I don't think it's going to be Florida-based specifically. I think it's going to be more on a national basis. I think you're going to see, given what just happened, I think you're going to see a lot of the players want it because on a cost basis, consolidation makes sense right now.
At scale, though.
At scale. Yeah. Not in the small businesses. I'm talking at the big ones. I think you could see consolidation at the the tier one, what they call the tier one MSO level, because I've been running these calculations recently on this. I'm not talking to anybody. There's no deals in the works, but just our analytics department's been looking at this. If you took 2 of the large MSOs, you put them together, you're going to save $200 million plus a year.
Yes.
So in a market where it's capital constrained, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Let's give you an example as something. Say you took a Verano and a Certera, but they're only in Florida. Say a Verano and Curaleaf, for instance.
Yeah.
You put their stores, our stores. You close one of the grows, the worst one. Okay, you have a one-time write-off. You write it off. You got one grow feeding now 130 stores.
Yeah.
You've saved a ton of money, right? or GTI and TrueLeaf, or CureLeaf and TrueLeaf. Well, CureLeaf and TrueLeaf wouldn't happen because Florida would never allow it. But I'm talking about overall at a federal level. I think that you're going to see, at least I would be willing to do that, because I think it makes a lot of sense for the industry. With that, guys,
I think it makes sense as well.
I've got another call I got to jump on.
Boris, it's awesome.
This was great.
I learned a lot here. Thank you, sir.
We have to do it sooner.
Yeah, we'll do it sooner again. Thanks a lot, guys.
Boris.
See you, Boris. Thank you.
We were drinking information of a fire hose there.
It's great information.
That is
great
unbelievable
informed information. I mean, his takes are good. And I mean, I could see that consolidation at the top. It makes sense, especially when you look at companies, and I don't want to get too speculative here, but when you get like a GTI or a Cresco, who's got killer market share in Pennsylvania, Virginia, Illinois, that whole corridor, and then you add on a strong Florida business, then you start to talk about combinations potentially in Arizona, some of the other outlier in states, New York as well. I mean, you could probably get some economies at scale pretty quickly and save, like Boris just said, 9 figures in cost if you were to put the right businesses together.
Well, like Gordon Gekko did with Bud Fox that one morning in Wall Street, wakey time. I know we've been down in the pits and dragging our feet for the past 48 hours, but look what we do here at this platform, bringing on the best thought leaders, providing good information on where this industry is going. That was an incredible interview, to say the least. Make sure to scan our QR code, as I always say, and subscribe to our Baked In newsletter. Leave some comments below. Let us know your thoughts on what Boris just outlined. I also like the idea of what Jason has learned too with regards to the Trump administration. So there's connected people here, and I wouldn't get so down and out related to space. Like, now that the 48-hour rule is basically gone and we can kind of like set aside our emotions, there's still some optimism pertaining to this space. And there's a lot of information that we learned here today. We'll keep on that narrative. Tomorrow, 11 o'clock a.m., Charlie Backdill from Cresco Labs will join us to talk about their latest numbers. And then you and I have got actually a pre-record interview with David Klein from Canopy after that, which we'll post first thing early next week. Yeah. So lots on the go. It's been a busy week, but people, wake up. We're going to be okay, and keep in touch. And we'll see you guys all back here tomorrow. Anthony, I'll talk to you later.
See you guys.
What is up, everybody? What did you all think of the latest live stream? We'd love to get your feedback. We'd love to know what you think is going to happen in this cannabis space. Will we see legislation in the next few months? And what does this mean for the overall cannabis industry? Make sure to smash that like button. We got to share this basically community with everybody out there. So make sure to share this video with your network. Leave some comments below, as I just said, and make sure to click on that bell for all notifications. And if you haven't done so already, listen, right now we've got 60% of our viewers that are subscribed to our channel, 40% are not. So greatly appreciate it if you haven't done so already to subscribe to our channel, because we wouldn't be here without you. Thanks again, everyone.